The spring balance slate has arrived for Warhammer 40k. Overall, it seems pretty solid across the board, nothing too egregious. Even got some new detachments for Tau, Orcs, and most importantly, for Custodes, which is something I didn't expect at all, especially since the last new detachment for Custodes received in Solar Spearhead has been totally crushing it on the board. But with the new Lions of the Emperor detachment rules, there might be a new king on the block. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Starhammer. For starters, let's go over some of the point increases and such for Custodes. Not a lot has changed, but what did feels pretty justified. Alea went down 10 points. I don't use sisters, so as far as I'm concerned, that's probably fine. Blade Champions went up 10 points, and I think that's very fair. A 10-point increase in any other army might not be that noticeable, but in Custodes, where every model counts, that's a pretty steep increase. However, given her stats and abilities, I'd say it was a good target for a nerf, and I'm shocked it didn't happen sooner. For context, the Blade Champion has 3 attack profiles to choose from that are all pretty scary, especially when you factor in your martial kata abilities, and any stratagems. But you can also reroll charges, and once per battle can charge after advancing. That's about to be even more potent, and we'll touch on that in a second. Battle Line Custodian Guard got cheaper, with both 4 and 5-man squads dropping by 10 points. Custodian Guard are a very solid battle line unit, but I personally leaned more into the Wardens because the points for Battle Line didn't really seem worth it when I could get more oomph out of the Wardens. Now though, might have to start investing in some regular old Custodians. Speaking of Wardens, they saw a pretty significant points increase, leading to a whopping 210 points for 4 dudes and 260 for 5. I see what GW is trying to do here, making Custodian players lean more into regular Custodians for their main infantry as opposed to Wardens. Maybe that's because regular Custodians don't have the sticking power of Wardens, since Wardens can get a 4-up feel no painless for battle, and if being led by a character, subtract 1 from the wound roll of attacks that are stronger than them. Regular Custodians, however, have a bit more utility with the ability to reroll wound rolls of 1 or the entire wound roll if they're within an objective that they control. Once per battle, they can also shoot twice. Maybe this is to make the army more assault focused with the guards and take away a fraction of the lethality Custodians enjoy anyway, in favor of more practical abilities over sticking power. Let me know what you think. Knight Centura went down a whopping 15 points, so if you're running sisters, I'm sure you're enjoying that points drop off. Both variants of the Shield Captain dropped by 10 points, which I can't say I'm opposed to. I'd like to include a lot more of them, and I think they're encouraging it with this new detachment, the Strategems. Captains reduced CP cost by 1, so keep that in mind going forward. The Venerable and Telemon Dreadnoughts went up 10 points, but given how much ass they were kicking in Solar Spearhead, I'm not surprised. I am surprised that the Praetors didn't go up, but you're not going to hear me complaining. So, what about this new detachment? Well, folks, it's pretty fucking scary. Our detachment ability is against all odds, which lets us add 1 to the hit and wound rolls provided there are no other friendly units within 6 inches. This can make you play a little more cautiously, as units won't be as close to provide support if you're getting messed up, but in my opinion, the risk is worth the reward. With this, units dishing out debuffs won't be able to affect you, and with that +1 to wound, you're going to be wounding against most infantry on a 2-up and a lot of vehicles on a 3-up. There's not a lot to say here, y'all, this is just a really good detachment rule. Our enhancements are doing more than just enhancing. They're going to be game changers. Superior Creation can be given to any Custodes infantry character and let you roll for them upon death, bringing them back on a 2-up with full wounds and not within engagement range. Did that pesky enemy character kill your Blade Champion? Psych! A word of caution though, is to potentially give your enemy the chance to farm the assassination mission by killing your character in additional time. But, provided you actually roll well on your saves, which shouldn't be hard to do with Custodes, you'll be able to rip and tear your way through that unit that just took you out. Praesidius gives a Custodian model stealth and lone operator, perfect for a Blade Champion as it would not allow them to be targeted outside of 12 inches, and if they do get targeted, enemies take a -1 to hit. Fierce Conquerors for Shield Captains only, and this one is pretty special. At the start of the fight phase, you'll add 2 to your attacks for every 5 enemy models within 6 inches rounded down. These guys get either 6 or 7 attacks by default, so against our units of like Gaunts or cultists surrounding you, there's a potential here for a metric ton of attacks, especially when you consider model count in those units. Yeah, like I said, this detachment has some scary stuff. And Monty Mortis is another Shield Captain enhancement, improving melee strength by 3 and AP and damage by 1. I like to run my Shield Captain with a spear most of the time, so that would make this a strength 10 melee weapon, AP 3 and damage 3. This is going to allow him to go toe to toe with even heavy tanks, and provided nobody's within 6 inches, give him a +1 to hit and wound. If any damage gets through out of those 7 attacks, just 3 or 4 of those is going to body a poor tank in a heartbeat. But the truly terrifying part of this detachment, at least for your opponent, are the Strategems, which all only cost 1 CP. Gilded Champion allows you to use your once per battle ability. Once again, you can only use this strat on a unit one time. Pretty obvious restriction, but it might allow you to use the Advance in Charge of the Blade Champion when you really need it. Defiant to the Last is the Fight on Death ability, letting you roll for a model that dies on a 4-up or 3-up if it's character. They get to fight before being taken off the board, provided they haven't already fought this phase. It's a fantastic defensive strat against someone that can actually keep up with Custodians in melee, such as World Eaters and Orc units. Peerless Warrior is pretty cut and dry and give your melee weapons precision, which for Custodians can be pretty nasty, and it can be popped during any fight phase. Unleash the Lions is a very unique stratagem that allows you to split up an Alaris or a Keelan unit and make each model in it their own unit. Throw cohesion out the window. This would play really well into the detachment rule by giving you much more flexibility on measurements and spacing for those kind of models. Maneuver and Fire lets you charge and shoot after a fallback move, so nothing too crazy here, just something Custodians could very much benefit from being a melee army. Finally, Swift as the Eagle lets you make a d6 move after being shot by an enemy unit. This is a great strat to get you guys out of line of sight of anyone else, provided you roll halfway decently, but do keep in mind that it can't be used on vehicles. Reactionary moves can be crazy beneficial, as movement in 40k can very easily make or break a game for you, so you can't go wrong with a little bit extra. This detachment seems to focus heavily on individual units and squads carving their own way across the battlefield and etching their names into legend. As the Lions of the Emperor strike forth and bring down the heretic mutant alien in the God Emperor's name, your models will be performing feats of untold valor and dishing out death at a scale never before seen on the tabletop with these new rules and abilities. Custodian players are eating good, y'all. The only downside I see is having to keep your units a bit further apart, thereby reducing chances of support should you find yourself in a pickle. You already have to play more carefully with Custodians than you otherwise would, but now you gotta take your spacing into account as well. I think this adds a really cool way to play Custodians. It gives you much more of a reason to run regular Custodian Guard, so you can reroll wounds and get the maximum number of successful wounds possible, as well as shield captains, as you'll be able to do all these cool new strats essentially for free, letting you save your CP for more important stuff when you need it most. I am super excited to try these new rules out this weekend. I know this is a pretty short video, but after seeing what was revealed, I just gotta gush about it for a little bit. The points for Custodians are sitting quite nicely, and with 2 new detachments in just a couple of months of each other, it is a great time to be a Custodes player. My only hope now is the Black Templars get really cool stuff like this when their Codex drops. But how did the balance update treat you? Across all my armies, I'm pretty happy, especially with that Blade Guard vet buff. Woo! Let me know in the comments below, and let me know what you thought about these new Custodian rules too. As always, drop a like if you like it, a subscribe if you really liked it, check the community tab for shitposts and shenanigans. Links to the socials and 3D models are in the description down below, and I will see you all in the next one. Toodles.